Okay, so I wasn't going to make this video. I haven't done a whole lot of movie reviews lately. I've just had too much going on in my real life to worry about getting reviews out on time. And this next month is going to be a ton of work getting everything edited for my Christmas in July series. So when I went to see Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, I had no plans for reviewing it. But then, ever since I saw it, I haven't been able to get it out of my head. There are just some things about it that are bugging me, and I really wanted to talk about them. Before we get into this, you should probably know how I feel about the Jurassic Park franchise as a whole. Like a lot of people, I absolutely love the first movie. In fact, if you know me, then you know that both Jurassic Park and The Lost World are two of my favorite movies of all time. They're thrilling adventure movies with great characters, and of course, they have dinosaurs. I've loved dinosaurs ever since I was a little kid, and by the time I finally saw these movies when I was a teenager, it was like they were exactly the kind of movies I'd been waiting my entire life to see. Jurassic Park 3, while it is not nearly as good as the first two, it was still an exciting, enjoyable experience, and I in no way hated it, like many other fans of the franchise did. I thought the Spinosaurus was one of the creepiest, scariest things in any of the movies, and I loved it for that. Jurassic World was a huge step up from 3, though. It had a ton more great dinosaur set pieces. Plus, I'm a huge Chris Pratt fan. I love Bryce Dallas Howard. And they brought B.D. Wong back as Henry Wu from the very first movie. The main villain fell a little flat, but the amazing dinosaur scenes more than made up for that. On the whole, I loved Jurassic World. Which brings us to Jurassic World 2, or Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. And honestly, I have not really decided how I feel about this movie yet. I feel like I might actually have been disappointed by it, but at the same time, I also thoroughly enjoyed it while I was there. It's such a strange internal dichotomy that I can't even figure it out. And that's partly why I'm making this video, because in writing out the script for this review, I'm really hoping that I will figure out exactly what it is about this movie that both entertained me and disappointed me. Before we really get into this, you should just know that there will be mild spoilers for the movie. If you haven't seen it, just a warning, I'm going to do my best not to spoil anything that's not in the trailers, but there was a lot of footage in the trailers, and that's a whole other issue that I'll actually be getting into later. Anyway, if you're okay with minor spoilers, let's continue. First and foremost, I think the biggest thing that bugged me, probably, was how little this movie felt like a Jurassic Park movie. One of the best things about this franchise, at least for me, is the lush tropical locations. Personally, I've never been to Hawaii, but between these movies and shows like Lost, it really has become one of my favorite places, at least on film. I think if I ever actually went to Hawaii, I'd probably get there and immediately sweat myself to death. But aside from the heat, there's just something about the scenery, everything about the islands that is just mysterious and beautiful, and I just love it. And this movie spent like a half an hour on the island, and half of that was in a bunker or running away from a volcano. Don't get me wrong, I loved those scenes, but I love a good trek through the jungle, and we got almost none of that in this movie. Secondly, aside from Claire, Owen, their two main sidekicks, and probably the little girl, every other character in this movie just felt slightly out of place. The fact that they were retconning in Benjamin Lockwood as someone who had been part of Jurassic Park from the beginning, but you just never knew about it. I mean, it sort of worked, but I think it would have felt a lot more genuine if there had been anything, even just a tiny throwaway line of dialogue from any of the previous 4 movies that had made mention of a silent partner. I did not hate the character, and his place in the overall lore of the series did make sense, but the fact that he was only introduced 5 films into the series kind of made his character fall a bit flat for me. And then his assistant felt off for me too, but I think that probably just had more to do with the people he surrounded himself with, because, let's face it, just about every bad guy in this movie with more than one line of dialogue felt like a cartoon. The auctioneer, played by Toby Jones, he was just bad. Everything that came out of his mouth was so cliched. I hated him. Thankfully, his role was not prolonged. He was eaten pretty quickly after the auction. But That being said, there are plenty of other cartoony bad guys in this whole series, even ones that I like. So it's possible that this was just a gut reaction on my part that was magnified by the fact that I didn't instantly love the whole movie. Aside from the incredibly corny villains, the most egregious thing, at least plot-wise for me, was the occasionally very unnatural behaviors from some of the dinosaurs themselves. There were a few really small moments here and there, but none that really took me out of the story until we got to one scene, and if you've seen the trailers, you've basically seen the entire scene. Our main characters are fleeing the volcano along with dozens of other animals, and they come across a gyrosphere from the previous film. They all climb in order to shield themselves from being trampled, but Owen is stopped by a Carnotaurus, who just happens to decide that he wants a little snack. Suddenly, from out of nowhere, our hero of the day, Mrs. Rexy herself, swoops in and chomps down on the Carno, rescuing Owen, who is now free to join his friends in the gyrosphere while the T-Rex roars in triumph. Except why on earth would the Carno decide that now, in the middle of running away from a quickly descending cloud of ash and lava, that this would be the perfect time to stalk this tasty-looking human? Because he's not grabbing a snack on the fly, he's slowly and methodically stalking him. And then, why would the T-Rex decide that now, fleeing from that very same cloud of quickly descending ash and lava, that she needs to go out of her way and save these humans from this obviously stupid Carnotaur, who idiotically decided that running away from a fiery death did not need to take priority over getting a snack? Either that or she just decided to pick a fight for no reason, because she obviously didn't even eat the Carnotaur, she just took him to the ground. I can't imagine that the T-Rex actually had any altruistic intentions, so why did she attack the Carno? Everything else about that scene was so well put together and looked so good, at least from a purely visual standpoint, but the fact that these dinosaurs just decided to stop fleeing for their lives and hunt and or pick a fight with another predator just really took me out of the story. One other dinosaur moment that I didn't like was that death. And if you've seen the movie, then you know which death I'm talking about. That death was tragic and unnecessary and horrible. I was originally just sad about it, but my friend Sam, who loves dinosaurs, loves them far more than I do, and I love them a lot, was very upset by that scene in particular. So much so that it kind of made me mad over it on her behalf. She said she actually broke down over it and basically felt like it ruined one of the most magical scenes from the first movie. And when she said that, I realized that, unintentional or not, the fact that they decided to do that to one of the most gentle creatures in the entire series, who may or may not have been the very same creature from the first film, was just an unnecessarily cruel way to say goodbye to this island and the creatures that live there. I think that by far, even more so than all the unbelievable plot elements and dinosaur deaths and discrepancies, the main thing that took away from my enjoyment of this movie was how much they gave away in the trailer. I'm not kidding when I say that I pretty much knew everything that was going to happen from the minute the movie began, because I watched the trailers beforehand. There are some exceptions. I did not see one particular death coming, or that big reveal. Again, if you've seen the movie, you know which reveal I'm talking about. But every big action set piece in the movie was featured in the trailers, to the point where almost nothing was left to surprise me when I actually got to watch the movie for myself. When I watched the first trailer, which wasn't too spoilery, I honestly wondered if Owen was going to die in the volcano. The fact that the subsequent trailers made it obvious that he got off the island completely ruined any tension that scene could have held for me, because I knew that the main characters were basically untouchable. I never once felt like I was on the edge of my seat, and I think that more than anything is what made me feel disappointed by the movie. I am not even kidding. There is more than one shot in some of the trailers that were taken directly from the end of the movie. They literally gave away the movie's ending in the trailers. I could not believe it. That is just ridiculous. I think if it weren't for how much the trailers gave away beforehand, I would not have felt the level of disappointment that I am feeling right now. I'm genuinely considering giving up watching trailers from now on, and I love watching trailers. I have not fully decided if I need to do something that drastic yet, but if these marketing people are just going to completely ruin my enjoyment of some of these movies, I may have to quit purposely watching them. I know I won't be able to fully escape them, some will still play in theaters, but I really feel like making it a point not to seek them out for myself online at all. I think the fact that this movie bears the name of the Jurassic Park franchise is a big part of what led to my initial disappointment. It probably led to a lot of people's initial disappointment. Jurassic Park set such a high standard for other films in the monster movie genre that it's basically impossible for any sequels to even come close to touching it. And I think that the fact that these new movies are trying to continue that legacy instead of being their own thing may be contributing to the negative reviews I've seen. I don't know about other people, but I think that if this were the beginning of a brand new franchise, completely separate from the Jurassic Park name, I probably would have just loved it with no qualms, as long as, in this hypothetical scenario, the studios actually showed some restraint when putting together the trailers, and didn't spoil the entire movie. Personally, I generally make it a point to be a positive person and to try and put a positive spin on my reviews, so I hate that this one sounds so negative, especially because I love this franchise. Like I said, I did not hate this movie, but the fact that I didn't love it does bother me somewhat. There was so much about it that I actually did really like, but now the negatives are kind of overshadowing the positives, and I needed to make this review just to try and get those out of my head. And I can already tell in making this video that I am feeling a lot better about it now that I've voiced these concerns. I think in the future, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom will grow on me. I like most of Jurassic Park 3, so there's probably no way I can really stay bitter at this one forever. Eventually, I'll probably do a follow-up review, because one of these days I really want to review all 5 films. So at that time, we'll see how I feel about it. Overall, I did not hate this movie. There were just a bunch of things that, at least for now, disappointed me. I think I will like it better in the future when I'm far enough removed from all of my preconceived expectations. I did actually enjoy myself while I was watching it. It was fun. There were a lot of genuinely good scenes. The cinematography was amazing. The score was excellent. And of course, I love the dinosaurs. I liked all the main characters, and the story, while it did not actually feel like a Jurassic Park movie, was on the whole still a good, exciting adventure. Yes, it was very much a B movie, scientifically unbelievable, like very scientifically unbelievable at some points. Basically just a glorified big-budget monster movie. But on the whole, it was still mostly a fun time. If you haven't seen this movie yet, I think I would still recommend it. However, just go in knowing that it cannot stand up to the precedent set by the original. Just enjoy it for the fun sci-fi monster movie adventure that it is. If you can look past the flaws, I think you will have a great time.